Hello there. I'm just making sure I have audio here. So happy Monday. I'm back for another live AppSheet Advisor AppSheet build today. And this week, I'm going to try to keep it a little more simple than I did last week. Last week, we built a trivia app that was calling out to AI and creating trivia questions and using some more advanced AppSheet features like actually calling out to AI. Gonna keep it simple today, gonna keep it to the basics. So if you haven't built an AppSheet app before, this is a really good one to start with because, again, we're just gonna use the basic features that are there that are still really helpful in order to actually accomplish what you want to accomplish, and you can do a lot with just those basic features. So today, thank you for the thumbs up. I see we got 4 viewers on now. It's good to see it. And last week I had all kinds of technical difficulties. So for the viewers that we actually have on, if you're not hearing me or not seeing anything, please throw something in the comments so I see that. I've been practicing all week to try to not screw up and not cover things up on the screen and stuff this week. But if you do see that happening, please drop something in the comments so that I know that and can fix it. So yeah, we're going to create this to-do list app today. And you're probably wondering, like, why would there's like a million to-do list apps in the App Store. Why would you ever want to do this? Well, the first reason is really just for fun, especially if you haven't built an AppSheet app before. It's something that's pretty simple to do. And there's not a lot of requirements to it as far as what we're going to do. And the second is that the problem with all those apps that are out in the App Store is they probably don't do exactly what you want to do many times. And the good thing about AppSheet is you can very easily, as you're going to see today when we're building this app, create something that does exactly what you want it to. It's specifically designed for your requirements because you designed it yourself. So those are really the 2 reasons why you might want to actually go ahead with something like this. And even what we're going to do here, you can probably adapt it to whatever your own requirements are. If it's not a to-do list app, if it's something else for, tracking orders in your business or tracking work or something like that, you could apply the same concepts that we're doing here for that type of app as well. All right, so let's jump right into this. And I'm going to switch over to my presentation view here. And what we have here is this is basically the requirements that we're going to work for with this app. So the first thing is that we only want to show uncompleted to-dos in our list. So a lot of people, I'm not one of these people, but my wife is one of these people. I know a lot of these people are kind of inbox zero, don't want to have anything in their inbox at all once it's cleared out, don't want to have any old text messages, once they've read those things. They just want all that stuff gone. And one of the things that most to-do list apps do, or at least the ones that I've worked with, is to show items as crossed out after you've completed them. So you mark them done and it puts like a line through it or something like that, but it still shows up there. So you still see that thing kind of in your to-do list, even though you've actually marked it. So for this one, since we're building our own custom one, we want that thing to completely go away once we mark it as done. The second thing is that, say the person who is using this is a handy person, like a person that goes and does work at people's houses and stuff, like actual little construction projects and stuff, and they want to keep their both their work stuff, like their work stuff as far as the projects that they're working on for those clients, and some of their personal stuff in the same app. So maybe that day they have to go to 123 Smith Street to do a job, but they also have to go to the grocery store and do something, and they want all of that in one place so that they don't have to be going to 2 different apps to figure everything out. So that's our second requirement. And the third thing is that we want, when it's the client work, they want to have before and after photos of whatever work they did. So if there's a question about that, or they want to remember something that they had done as far as one of those jobs in the past, they want to be able to quickly snap a before and after photo to keep track of what they had done. And again, they don't want to see it in their to-do list once it's marked done, but they want to be able to go back and look and actually see a record of that in the future if they need to. So that's the third thing. And then the fourth thing is that they want a record of their completed to-dos. Like I was just saying, they want to be able to go back and search those things. Even though they don't want them in their main view, they want to be able to go back and see what the completed to-dos were at some point. So those are the requirements that we're going to work for the app that we're going to build. We're going to do this in Google Sheets. So let's start by just creating a new sheet. And I'm going to call this app today. So that's basically just what we're going to name our app. And then in this, we want to create a number of different, we want to figure out exactly what our columns are going to be that we're going to put into this. So basically, again, from those requirements, let me zoom into the screen here so we can actually see what I'm typing. So these are the columns that we're going to want to create. So the first is an ID. So basically in AppSheet, you always, or almost always, want to have an ID column for any row that you have. So we're just going to create an ID column. We're going to let AppSheet put the ID actually in there when it creates new records for us. It'll generate a unique ID. The second is the name. So the name of the thing, like the name of whatever that to-do is, like grocery store or whatever. The third one is the type. So the type could be either the sorry, mine went blank there. The type could either be like a general or a personal to do, or it could be a client to do, like, if it is something for a particular job. And then we want to have the before photo and the after photo, and then the created time and the completed time. So with the created time, just when this record was created, again, we'll have AppSheet automatically record that for us. And when we mark to do as done, we also wanted to record the completed time, and that's what we're going to actually, you'll see once we get into this, use to determine that task was completed. Okay, so those are what our columns are going to be. Let me go back to the sheet again and start typing those in there. Oops. And I'll make this a little bit bigger than it is currently. All right, so first one is the ID. Second one is the name. Third one is the type. Fourth one is the before photo. Fifth, after photo. Sixth is the created time. And seventh is the completed time. Okay, and then in order to create an AppSheet app from a Google Sheet like this, you can use click extensions up at the top here and go to AppSheet. And if I scroll over, there's an option there for create app. So I'm going to select that, and let me zoom back out again. All right, so AppSheet has created our today app. I'm going to hit customize with AppSheet, and we're ready to start working with that. So whenever you create a new app, one of the first things you'll want to do is just, especially when you do it from Google Sheets like this, go in and actually look at what the data types look like. So basically, Google or AppSheet will link this to the Google Sheet that we were just looking at. And it basically, based on the names, primarily, it guesses what types of things the columns that you created in that Google Sheet were. So you see, for the ID is first, it's type text, that's right. It marked it as the key, which means that it's the primary kind of internal identifier that AppSheet uses for tracking records. So that was a good choice to mark that as the key, something called ID. And if I scroll over here to the right, you see it automatically made the initial value for that key this function or this expression called unique ID. So whenever we create a new record, it's going to put an ID in, which AppSheet uses to track everything internally. That's exactly what we want. So usually, if you just name your column ID, you're going to get that behavior, which is basically what you want. Second one is text, second one is the name. So this is going to be our to-do name. It guessed to make this a name, which is typically a person's name. That's not really what we want in this case. We just want text because it's not really the name of a person. It's really just the name of a to-do list task. So we're going to change that to text. The third one is the type, and again, it guessed that as text. But what we want in this case, we want to have a multiple choice option here, and our multiple choices could be either that it's a personal to-do item or it's a client to-do item. And a good way to represent that in AppSheet is using what's called not an enum, which is not an intuitive name at all. But basically, what it is a enumeration. It's a list of things where you can check from multiple things. So we're going to make it that. And we're going to actually go into that, and we want to define our two values. So the way that you do that is you click this little pencil icon that we have here right next to each one of these types to go into this edit view. And then you see underneath here, there's an add button that you can use to actually add the options for each one of the values that are possible. So we're going to call these personal and client. And I will zoom back out again. And I see I typed that wrong, client. And so that's done now. That one's an enum. And then the next two are before photo and after photo. You see that it correctly named each one of correctly made each one of those in an image, which is what we want. So that's great. And then it's got created time and it's got completed time. And you see I screwed up, I guess, when I was typing the column names and didn't put time in the second one. So it didn't actually assign that to a time. So let's first go back and fix that. So I'm going to go back to my sheet again, and I'm going to call this completed time. And then when you do that, if you go back to AppSheet again, the way that you can pull in any changes that you actually made to your sheet is using this refresh button or regenerate schema button up here. So I'm going to click that. It's going to ask me if I want to regenerate my schema. And that basically means just pulling in the definition from the actual Google Sheet or whatever your connected data source is. So you see now it pulled in completed time and it made it a time once we did that. So all set there. These are all the correct data types that we actually want at this point. All right, and you see it's also created an initial view for us for this to-do list. So it just says today right now. We don't have any data in our sheet right now, so there's nothing showing up there. So let's just create a new record within our sheet. So we'll go in, and I'm actually going to start updating this as we go. So you see it's got all of our fields in here. The first thing is this ID, which is just a randomly generated ID. And again, AppSheet uses this internally to identify that row. But for humans, it provides pretty much no useful purpose at all, and it's ugly being there. So the first thing we want to do is just get rid of that thing in our record. So to do that, where I can go back to my data again, and I basically never want to see this ID showing up at all. So what I can do is uncheck this show, and you see it's immediately gone. So again, we're defining that at the data level, not at a particular view, just to make sure that thing never actually shows up. So that's good. I'm going to save my record there. All right, then we got the name. Again, it's going to be our task name. Then we've got the type down below this. So we got personal and client. So probably, let's say that the user who's creating this is usually creating mostly personal to-do items. So we want this to default to personal, so you don't have to select one of them or the other. So the way that I can do that is I'm going to go under type here. And there's a initial value way over here to the right. So, and you can also get to it by clicking the pencil here, but we're going to do it here. So I'm going to go over to the initial value column here, and I'm going to click that. And I'm just going to say that I want the initial value for this to be personal. And whenever you have these enumeration types, if you just type a double quote, it will pop up this option that basically shows you all the allowed or all the kind of permitted types in that particular case that we defined again in that previous step. So I'm going to select personal there. I'm going to click save. And now you see that it's defaulting to personal whenever I create a new row. And then we have before photo, after photo. Again, these will let you, on a computer like I'm on currently, if I click them, it'll pop up something to let you select a photo. If you're on your phone, it'll let you actually take the photo. So again, if we had somebody who was out working for clients and taking their phone with them, they'd be able to run this app right on their phone and just click that photo thing to be able to take the pictures right in there, and it will upload those pictures. And then when they come home, if they have this app on their computer as well, you'd see those pictures there. So again, another big benefit of AppSheet is you get automatic, mobile apps that you can use as well as using the same apps on the computer. So that's the photos. Don't really have to do anything there. And then with this created time and completed time, not really providing much value here for us. We're going to be using them as we go along further here, but we don't need to actually see them in this view, so I can hide them as well. And that is also here. So I'm just going to uncheck those two things, and they're gone as well. All right, so now we have a nice view for at least creating a new record in this point. So let's go ahead and create this. I'm going to call this grocery store. And I'm just going to click save. And you see it created a record. Now what happened here is something that you'll often see, especially when you're building with AppSheet, is you create something and then it goes back to a blank screen again. And you're like, what happened? And the reason for that is because if I actually go and look at the view for the thing that we just created. So basically in AppSheet, you have the data and then you have views. So we were just looking at a form view that AppSheet automatically created for this type. So what we're going to do is go and look at that view. And if I want to see that, I can go under views here. And the actual system data, or the form view that we were just looking at, is a system generated view that's down here under, and I'm going to scroll in because I see that my camera's over that right now. All right, so system generated view down here called today form. So again, whenever you use a new data type, it creates these things for you automatically. And I'm gonna go into that form, and there's something down here that is the finish view. So basically that's saying what to do after you finish that thing. So after you submit that form, what do you want to do next? So right now it's set to go back. And basically the reason that we're seeing this blank screen come up is because it's going back to somewhere that we never were. So since it is just a preview of the app right now, it's going backwards to a screen that doesn't exist, which is just blank. So instead of that, I can say to go to today, which is going to be my actual the main view that we have for this app to show all our to-dos. So now if I do that, I'm going to create another one, and we'll call this I don't know, drop off dog somewhere. So, and I save that. And now you see when I did that, it went back to the main view again. So always if that's the behavior that you want, which probably is what you want in many cases like this, when you're creating something, you can set that and it will loop you back to the main screen again here. Okay, so that's that. Next thing we want to do, let's give this a little bit nicer icon. So you see right now it's got this list icon, maybe somewhat appropriate, but we can probably come up with something better. So in order to do that, I'm going to go back to my views again. And you see up here under primary navigation, there's today. And just quickly to cover what this means, like primary navigation is this navigation down here. So when something is in this category, it's going to show up down here. The other options are menu navigation. And when you put it into menu navigation, it's going to be more hidden. It's going to show up here. So it's not kind of in your face all the time. So if you actually, when we get to creating our completed views, we're going to put it up there so we don't actually see it all the time. So that's what happens. And you can move these things between them by saying move to here to select where you actually want them to be. And then reference views are things that you are kind of hidden behind the scenes. So you don't really want to allow people to navigate directly to them anywhere. You just want to be able to link to them from other places. So those are the reference views. And again, you can move these things around using move to. But we're going to give this today a nicer icon. So I'm going to go down here, and that is under display. And I'm going to make this, let's look like for some calendar views since we're talking about today. And we're just going to use this checkbox here. So I can just select that. And you see now down here that's changed to a checkbox icon for whatever we've got going on today. So that's good. Let's save here again. All right, and the next thing, this is just kind of ugly looking right now, the way that this looks. I want to just basically have like big to-do items up here instead of the, this layout, which doesn't really make sense for what I've got going on here. So the way that I'm going to do that is I'm going to go under my today view, and you see that this is currently a deck view. Like that's what AppSheet chose for our initial view based on the data we have. And what I want to do is I want to go down and I want to keep the name, the top part, the name. So these columns down here let me specify what each one of these cells has in it. So I'm going to keep the top one the name. I'm going to make the second one none because I don't want to show anything in that case. I don't really need to show the category because I'm going to actually have this break up to show the different categories separately, so I can leave that as is. And I also want the summary column to be none. So I basically just want the name. And I also don't really want to have these actions here because I can put confirmations on them, which we'll see in a minute, but I don't really want to edit these things from right here in general in this app. So I can uncheck show action bar here, and they're going to go as well. All right, and then the last thing here is that I want to set my image to none. And you see now it's collapsed down really nice that I just have those line items, and because there's nothing else holding space within that particular layout. So that's good. Next thing I want to do from here is actually make this text a little bit bigger than it is currently, because now that we've narrowed it down to just these line items, I like them to be bigger. And especially, at my age and older than my age, and probably even younger than my age, it gets harder to see things. So I like to have the text a little bit bigger. So I can do that by going underneath my views here, and I can go to format rules. And this is basically what allows you to control text formats throughout your application. So I'm going to add a new format rule. I'm just going to say larger name for this. And this is the data that we want to do. The column that we want is name. And basically, so this is going to apply this format to this column throughout to this piece of data throughout the app. So I have name selected there. I'm going to go down further, and I'm going to go to the text format, and I'm just going to make it bigger. So I can basically just increase it from here, and you should see as I do that it's increasing over here on the right as well. So looking better there. And I also want to give it like a nice icon just to make it look a little bit nicer. So to do that, I can just select something over here. And now you see we've got the items there, and it's got that icon next to it every time it displays. So that looks a little bit better too. All right, where do we want to go from here? So the next thing that we want to do, we can again create items now. We can go in here, but obviously the goal here is to be able to mark these things as complete and have them go away eventually. So let's look at how we're going to actually mark them complete. And as I mentioned in the beginning, a good way to do that, or the way that we're doing that in this app at least, is to use the completion date as being set. So whenever the completion date is being set, we're going to have logic in our app to say that particular task is now complete, so it doesn't need to show up within the list here. And actually, I just thought of one other thing that I forgot to do in this last view. Let's go back there again. I mentioned that I want to break up the personal items and the client items into separate lists on here. So to do that, I can go back here to views, and there's an option down here for, where am I missing? Oh, group by. So I want to group by the type. Okay, so now you see it's got a group there of personal, and if I create another item that's a client item, so I'm going to say 123 Smith Street and save, now it's going to show up as a different grouping there. So that's how you can manage grouping of different things within your views as well. All right, now back to what I was just talking about with the action. So I want to be able to mark one of these things as complete so that it doesn't show up in this list anymore. So to do that, I'm going to go in back here again. This is where I want to have the button appear in order to mark it complete. And the way that you create buttons in AppSheet is using actions. So actions are over here under this menu, this little lightning bolt menu. So I'm going to click that. And then I'm going to create a new action that's called underneath today. So all the actions are associated with specific types. So I'm going to create an action under here called mark complete, or let's just call it complete. And so I want to have an icon for this as well that's better than an airplane, which makes no sense. So I'm going to go down here and I'm going to look for a check mark again, and I'll just use this one to mark it as complete. And then what I want to happen when I click this thing is defined right here. So it says do this. So what I want to do when a record is marked complete is to go in and I want to set the value that was already selected, but I want to set the values of some columns in this row. So what I want to do is I want to set the completed date to whatever the current time, or the completed time to whatever the current time is. So I can just select completed time here. And then over here on the right, I can actually enter a function or expression that grabs the current time and puts it into that record. And one of the ways that you can do this is like looking underneath all the different available options here. And if you look through them, you should see, usually see something that jumps out at you as far as what you actually want to do. But what we want to do is time now, which is it says it returns a time type. And as the name kind of implies, it gives the current time. So I'm just going to click insert there. It's going to put it into my record. I'm going to click save. And now, if I go and click complete here, you see that there's a flashed red up in the corner there really quick, which meant something was happening. It put a time in there, but but I'm still on this screen, and it also, a lot of apps will give you a confirmation saying, are you sure you want to mark this thing as complete? Let's say that we want to do that so that we don't accidentally click this thing and have something happen that we didn't want to happen. So first let's display a confirmation, and then let's work on what we'll do to actually make it a little bit more clear that something actually happened there. But if I do go back to my sheet now and I look at my items, you see that I do have a completed time there for that particular thing. So let's go back here again. And I just noticed that the completed time is on all those records. And the reason for that quickly is because I did not check my times well enough here when I was creating this. So you see that both the created time and completed time both have the time now as the initial value, and we don't want that. We want only the created time to have the initial value. So I'm going to delete that there. And I also just noted that I had another typo that I called this create time instead of created time. So I can go back there and fix this. And now I'm going to delete all these dates that got put in there for the completed time that I didn't want. And I'm going to go back and I'm going to regenerate my sheet again. So now this says created time, and we only have the time being set as the initial value for created time, and not the completion time. So let's create one more new item here. I'm going to say get mail, and I'll create that. I can uncheck created time is showing up again since I messed with it there. So let me uncheck show again on that. Type get mail one more time, save. So now if I go back and look at my sheet again, it did not create, when I forget mail in that particular case, it did not put in a completion time, which we want. want that to not put it in there until we actually click the completion button. So let's go back over here again. And now if I go to get mail and I click the complete button, again, you see that little red icon showed up there really quick. And if I go back to my sheet again, what? Oh, you know what? I deleted the column accidentally. But if I go back to the sheet now, you see that it has the completion time in there, which is what we actually wanted. Okay, sorry, a little bit of mistakes there that probably led to some confusion, but sorry about that. All right, so we're back here again. We got our action working. But again, next thing we want to do here is actually show some kind of confirmation before we mark the thing as completed, just to make sure that that's what the user actually wanted to do. So to do that, I can go back to my action again. I'm going to go to my complete action. And that is down here under behavior. And there's this checkbox called needs confirmation. So I'm going to turn that on. And then I'm going to put in here below the confirmation message. So I'm going to say, are you sure you want to mark this complete, and save. And now this one is already marked complete, but you see when I click the complete icon up here, it shows that confirmation for me before it actually does it. If I hit no, it won't actually do it. If I hit complete, then it will proceed with actually marking it complete. So that's good. Let's go back into one that's not marked as complete, like drop off the dog. I can mark it as complete. I can hit complete. It updated. If I go back and look at my sheet again, you see 2 of those rows now have a completion time. So that's working. However, it's still like leaving me on this screen. So I don't really know what happened. If I'm the user, did it actually work? Like, who knows what happened? So the next thing we want to do is actually, after you mark it as complete and they confirm it, just send them back to the main screen again, just like we're doing when you create a new record. So to do that, I'm going to again create another action. What I'm going to do quickly here is the action that we currently have here, that is called complete. I'm going to call this one mark complete. Okay, and I'm going to make this, I'm going to actually make this one hidden, because what we're going to do is we're going to create another action that's going to do 2 things. First, it's going to call this one to mark it complete, and then it's going to do a redirect to send us back to the home screen again. And then we're going to have a third action. So the second action is the one that sends us back to the home screen. And the third action is the one that makes the 2 of those things combined together happen. So the mark complete is what we already had, that's going to actually set that particular row as complete. And usually what I'll do for these types of items is I'll just make I usually use this little hidden eye icon for the icon, just for myself working in there, so that I know that that's not something that's actually visible to end user. So I just use that to kind of indicate that. And I can also set the position here to hide so that users don't actually see that anywhere. So that's our mark complete. Then the second action that we're going to want is the one that actually redirects the user back to the home screen again. So I'm going to say, create a new action, and I'm going to say, go to today for this one. And this is going to be an app action. That's going to be go to another view within this app. And then it's asking me here what the view that I want to go to is. And I can click this, and you see it's populating the different functions or expressions that let me redirect to things. So I want to say link to a view, and then similar to the enumeration that we selected or that we worked with before, if I just put a double quote, it'll give me the available options here. So today is the one that I actually want to go to. So I'm going to select that, and I'm going to click save, and I'm going to fix my typo here. And I'm going to save that. And then, again, I want to give that one that little hidden icon. And then the third action, again, is the one that I want to create in order to do those two things together. So this is the one that users are actually going to see. So I'm going to call this one complete, what I had called my original one. Again, since this is, I want a name that people are going to understand exactly what it means if I had other users using this app. And this one, I want to select for the do this grouped execute a sequence of actions. And I want to, again, just add the two actions that we just created. So the first one is to mark complete, and the second one is go to today. And you see, I still have complete showing up here, and that's I still have go to today showing up here, and that's because I forgot to mark that one as hidden. So I can just click that, and I can say hide, and that one is now gone. And then finally, I just want to give my complete action, which again is the one that executes both of those things, a different icon to show that it's complete. So I'm going to go back. And I'm going to say that check mark again, and I'm going to use that. Okay, our app is saved. Let me zoom in over here, and we will go back to our today view again. And let's say 123 Smith Street. We want to go into this, so we want to mark it complete. It's showing my confirmation. I can hit mark complete. It did it, and it also sent me back to the home screen. So all good there. And if I go back again and look at my sheet, we should see 123 Smith Street have a completion time as well. Okay. So, oops. See, I just deleted that again, trying to screw myself up. So the next thing that we want to do, obviously, I'm marking these things as complete, and they're still showing up on this list. So the next thing we want to do is actually get rid of those things. We want them to disappear from the list once they're actually marked as complete. So the way that I can do that is go back to my sheet again, back to my data view again, and we want to create what's called a slice, and a slice is a kind of a subset of the data based on some criteria that you give it, but a subset of the data that you've already defined here. Excuse me. So in order to create a slice, I click this plus button here next to the type of data that I want to create a slice from. So I'm going to create that. And I'm going to, a nice thing about this is that it lets you type in suggestions for what you actually want here. So for this slice, I'm going to say that I want only where the completion date is empty. So the completion date is empty. It means like that thing is not yet complete. So those are the things that I want to show on this today view. So I'm going to say show today only when completed time is blank. Okay, so I can select that, and that's going to automatically create that the expression that's needed in order to be able to do that filtering in here. I want to have all the data in here. I want to have all my actions. Like that's all fine. And I'm just going to go ahead and let's call this completed tasks. Well, let's just call it completed, and I'm going to save. And now you see it's still showing up here with everything, but that's because we still have this view pointed to our actual full list of everything. We don't have it pointed to the slice that we just created. So in order to point it to the slice, I'm going to go under views here. I've got my today view, and what I want to do is just select for this data, and I want to change from today to completed. And you see now it updated. It's only showing the items that are, and I did that backwards. I meant not completed. So I need to go fix my view name. But it's only showing the items that are not completed in that particular case. Let's go back and fix my view. Again, that's under here. And I just want to call this not completed. Not note. Geez, I can't type. Not completed. Okay, so all set there. We now have our view that's showing everything that is not completed. If I create a new item that's a new client item, and I'll call this 456 Elm Street and save. We have a new item that actually came up there with 456 Elm Street. So all good there. Everything's working. Now, if I go back to my requirements again, let's see where we stand on everything. So we only want to show uncompleted to-dos. We're good there. Again, as soon as I mark those things completed, and let me show that really quick. As soon as I mark one of these things as completed, it's going to go away. So that is Elm Street. So I'm going to mark completed. You see it goes away as soon as we do that. And so we're good with that requirement. We want everything in one place, client and personal. We did that again by creating those two different types that we can create. We want before and after photos for each one of the client to-dos. Okay, that one we didn't do yet. So let's loop back and look at that before we proceed to the next one. So right now, if I create any type of to-do, it's showing this before and after photos, but I don't need, obviously I don't need that for go to the grocery store or something like that. So I don't want to show these unless it's a client to do. So in order to do that, I can just go back to my data again. And I want to go to my main view. Excuse me. And I want to just say that these two things, the before and after photos, only show up if the type of the this particular to do today thing is a client one. So in order to do that, I can go over here. Actually, I'm going to go under edit here for the before photo. And you see there's a show thing here. So what we did for the ID and the creation date and the modification date before was we just checked or unchecked that thing, was just saying like globally, is this thing available or is it not available? In this case, we want to set, is this thing shown or is this thing not shown? In this case, we want to say sometimes it's shown, sometimes it's not, and we want to have some kind of logic in there to figure out when that is. And that logic is going to be whether or not this is a client type of item or a client item. So in order to do that, instead of just checking or unchecking this, I can use this little expression formula thing over here. I can click this. And what I want to do is I want to say, I want to answer yes or no to is the, is it the type? So I'm going to insert the type, is the type, and then I'm going to say equals. And then again, since the type is an enumeration, I can use quotes here. So I'm going to say, is the type client? So if that's yes, then this whole thing is going to evaluate to yes, which means that thing is going to show up. If the whole thing is false, it's not going to show up. So if the type is personal, it's not going to show up. So that's what my expression is, and I'm going to just copy that. And I'm going to go in and you see it's not showing up now when it's personal. And if I switch to client, it does show up. And I want to apply that same thing to the after photo. So I'm just going to go in here. I'm going to click the expression thing again, and I'm just going to paste what I just copied. So type equals client. And we're all good. So that's that requirement that we only want to show these things when the type is client. So we're all set with that one. And then the last one is we want a complete record of we want a record of the completed to-dos. So right now, the way that this app is set up, once you mark something as completed, it's still in your sheet. So if I go over in my sheet, I'm still going to see it there, but I'm not going to see it in the app anywhere. So assuming that I want to be able to see these, especially if I'm out on the road or something like that, and I want to be able to see it on my phone, I'd like to have that in my app as well. So in order to do that, I'm going to create another view, and I'm going to call this one completed. Actually, you know what I'm going to do? Instead of creating the view completely from scratch, I'm just going to duplicate the one that's already there. Then all the settings that we already set up with grouping and everything else that we set up on this view, we'll be able to just use all that without having to reconfigure it all. So I'm just going to say duplicate, and I'm going to call this one completed. And I want this one to show up in this menu up here instead of down at the bottom here, because I don't want to complicate my view with seeing that in here. I'm not planning to really use this completed aspect of it too much, so I want to kind of hide it away under this menu up there. So to do that on my completed, I can just set it to menu. You see now it went away from down here, and if I go up here, it says completed. So we're all set there. And then the next thing that we want to do is actually update it because if I go and view this, it's exactly the same as the first one, is the main one, because we didn't actually change anything. We just duplicated the view that was there. So I want to actually make it show the completed items. So to do that, we need to create one more slice. And if I look at my function that I have here is called is blank completed time. So this is just the opposite of that. I want to say is not blank completed time. So I'm going to create another view, and I'll just do this. I could duplicate it as well, but I'm just going to create another one as well. And I'm going to say it's actually got it suggested here. Show today where completed time is not blank. Okay, and I'm gonna click, put that expression in there. I'm gonna click save in that. I'm just gonna call this completed and save that. So now we've got two slices underneath here. And if I go back to my view again and for completed, I just select my completed slice. Now it shows up with the completed items. So in our app, if I go to today, it's showing me my not completed items. And if I go back here, it shows me all my completed items. And if I go back and I mark something like grocery store as completed, it's going to say mark complete. It's gone away from my to-do list here. And if I go back to my menu here, it's actually showed up in the completions and the completed items there. All right. So that should wrap up all our items. That was the last item that we had in our to-do list there to complete that. So it should be all set there. That's a simple app. I see that I do have some comments here. I want to share them really quick because I want to, this software Ecamm Live that I'm using, I want to see how to make them show up here. All right, so there's a comment there. Very good. Thanks for sharing from Cape Verde. So thank you for posting that as well. I don't know how to hide that now, but oh, there we go. So I did get one comment on that. Thank you. We still got 5 people watching. I did see a few coming and going as we were chatting there. So thanks for watching. I hope some of you are current AppSheet users, but I hope there's also some new AppSheet users that stumble upon this just to see what's possible and how simple it is to set something like this up. And again, once you learn the basics, a lot of the stuff that we're just talking about could be a to-do list app. It could be a lot of different apps that you could use in, your personal life and business and all those kind of things that you're able to build really quickly once you actually know how to do it and what these skills are and how to actually navigate around AppSheet Builder and get to those different things. All right, so that's all I got for today. If you do have any questions about anything that we did here, and you add them to the comments. This video should show up on the main YouTube channel, so add them down in the comments. I'll try to get back to you and answer those, and I plan to keep doing these types of videos. Right now, Mondays around noon Eastern time in the U.S. Eastern time is what I'm trying to do at different variety levels. If you have specific types of apps that you want to see or specific features that you want to see covered, include them as well. I was trying to keep this simple, but it did still take about an hour to get through it. So I'm trying to keep them simple enough that they don't go on multiple hours long. But it'd be good to hear what kind of features everyone's looking to see covered, and I will try to include them in these live videos that I do. All right. Thanks again to everyone that watched. Have a great day, and we'll see you again soon.